Nobody wanted the maid at the mating auction, until the Alpha King offered his crown. Chapter 1. The bell rang before sunrise. Leora Vale opened her eyes immediately. She always did. Sleeping too long meant punishment. Being late meant no breakfast, sometimes both. She pushed herself from the narrow cot. The room was cold. The blanket was thin. Winter winds slipped through cracks in the stone wall. Across the room, another servant groaned. "Already?" Leora smiled faintly. "Come on, we need water before the kitchens wake up." The other girl rolled over. "You always smile in the morning. It's suspicious." Leora laughed softly. "If I stop smiling, I'll probably cry." The girl pointed. "Exactly my point." A few minutes later, Leora carried 2 heavy buckets across the palace courtyard. Snow covered the ground. Her fingers burned from the cold. But she kept walking. She always kept walking. That was how she survived. Head down, work hard, 'cause no trouble. The palace guards barely noticed her. Most nobles didn't even look at servants. To them, maids were furniture. Useful, replaceable, invisible. Leora entered the kitchens. The cooks were already shouting. Orders flew through the air. Pots slammed against tables. Someone dropped a tray. Chaos had begun. "You're late." Leora turned. Housekeeper Brenna stood behind her. The older woman always seemed angry, even when she was smiling. "I arrived 3 minutes early," Leora said carefully. Brenna narrowed her eyes. "Are you correcting me?" "No." "Good answer." Brenna shoved a basket into her arms. "Take this to the East Dining Hall." Leora nodded. "Yes, ma'am." As she hurried away, laughter erupted nearby. A group of noble daughters entered the kitchen. Expensive dresses, perfect hair, perfume strong enough to fill the room. At their center walked Lady Celine Ashmore, the daughter of one of the richest Alpha families. Beautiful, popular, cruel. Her favorite combination. Celine spotted Leora instantly. Of course she did. Predators always noticed weakness. "Look," Celine smiled. "The palace mouse is still alive." The girls laughed. Leora kept walking. That was usually safest. Unfortunately, Celine stepped into her path. "Did I say you could leave?" Leora stopped. "No, Lady Celine." Celine circled her slowly. "Tell me something." Leora stayed silent. "Why do you keep trying so hard?" The girls giggled. Celine tilted her head. "You'll always be a maid." More laughter. "No family." Giggles. "No status." Smirks. "No wolf." The room became quieter. That last part hurt. Because it was true. Every member of the kingdom awakened their wolf spirit during adolescence. Every member except Leora. At 18 years old, she still had nothing. No transformation, no wolf, no explanation. Some called her cursed. Others called her broken. Leora lowered her gaze. Celine smiled wider. She knew exactly where to strike. "Tell me, Maid." Her voice softened, crueler than before. "How does it feel knowing even your own wolf rejected you?" The kitchen fell silent. Leora's chest tightened. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. But then she remembered something her mother once said. "Kindness is strongest when the world gives you reasons to hate." So she lifted her head and answered quietly. "I wouldn't know." Celine frowned. Leora continued. "Because I don't hate myself." The room froze. 1 second. 2. 3. Then Celine's face darkened. The slap came fast. Pain exploded across Leora's cheek. The basket fell. Fruit rolled across the floor. Nobody moved. Nobody helped. Leora pressed a hand to her face. Celine leaned close. "You should." Then she walked away. The noble daughters followed, laughing again, as if nothing had happened. Leora slowly knelt. She gathered the scattered fruit, one apple at a time. A pair of boots appeared beside her. She looked up. Old cook Marin was watching. The woman sighed. "One day that mouth will get you killed." Leora managed a smile. "Maybe." Marin crouched beside her. "But not today." Together they gathered the fruit. Neither noticed the stranger standing outside the kitchen doorway. A tall man dressed in black. Watching. Listening. Studying every word. His silver eyes never left Leora. And when she finally looked up, she caught only a glimpse of him disappearing around the corner. Something about him felt familiar. Strangely familiar. As though she had seen him before. But that was impossible, because the man who had just watched her was not a servant. Not a guard. Not a noble. He was Alpha King Kaelin Thorne, and after years of searching, he had finally found the girl he believed had been stolen from him as a child. The only problem was that someone else had already placed her name on the upcoming mating auction. And by midnight, there would be an order signed for her sale. Chapter 2. Leora didn't know why she couldn't stop thinking about the stranger. All day, his face lingered in her mind. Or at least the small part she had seen. Silver eyes, sharp features, a presence that seemed larger than the hallway itself. By evening, she convinced herself she was imagining things. Powerful men did not wander palace kitchens, especially not men dressed like that. The thought should have faded. Instead, it followed her through every task, through every hallway, through every hour. And by nightfall, something far worse demanded her attention. The mating auction. The announcement came during supper. Servants crowded around long wooden tables, talking, laughing, complaining, until a palace messenger entered. The room immediately fell silent. The messenger unrolled a scroll. His voice echoed against stone walls. "By decree of the Council of Pax, the winter mating auction shall begin tomorrow night." Groans spread through the room. Several girls lowered their heads. Others looked terrified. Leora felt her stomach tighten. She hated the auctions. Everyone did. Officially, they were meant to help unmated wolves find partners. In reality, powerful families used them to trade influence. Poor girls rarely had a choice, especially servant girls. The messenger continued reading names, one after another. Daughters of merchants, daughters of warriors, daughters of lesser alphas. Then, Leora Vale. The room went silent. Leora froze. No, that had to be a mistake. The messenger continued without emotion. Registered under palace servant classification. Several servants gasped. Someone whispered. "What?" Another voice answered. "Why would anyone register her?" Leora stood slowly. There must be an error. The messenger looked at her. There is no error. Her heart pounded. I never agreed. The messenger rolled up the scroll. Agreement is not required. Then he walked away, just like that, as though her entire life had not changed. The room exploded with conversation. Leora barely heard any of it. She sat down again, numb. Across the table, her friend Mina stared. "Leora, I know. You can't go. I know." Mina grabbed her arm. "Do something." Leora laughed bitterly. "What exactly?" Neither of them had an answer, because servants had no power, and everyone knew it. Hours later, Leora stood alone in the courtyard. Snow drifted from the sky. The moon hung low above the palace towers. She wrapped her thin coat tighter. For the first time in years, she felt afraid. Not of hard work, not of hunger, not of insults. Something deeper. Something heavier. The feeling that her life no longer belonged to her. "You look troubled." Leora jumped. The voice came from behind. Deep, calm, familiar. She turned and froze. The stranger from earlier stood beneath the moonlight, tall, broad-shouldered, Dark clothing. Silver eyes. Those eyes again. They seemed to glow against the snow. Leora immediately lowered her gaze. My apologies, sir. You don't need to apologize. His voice softened. Are you afraid of me? No. The answer came too quickly. One corner of his mouth lifted. A lie. Heat rushed into her cheeks. You startled me. Fair enough. Silence settled between them. Strange silence. Not uncomfortable. Just unusual. Most nobles treated servants like shadows. This man looked directly at her, as though she mattered. The thought made her nervous. He glanced toward the palace. I heard your name today. Leora stiffened. Of course he had. Everyone had. His expression darkened slightly. How do you feel about the auction? She laughed once. A sad sound. Does it matter? His eyes narrowed. Yes. The answer surprised her. She studied him carefully. Who was this man? Why did he care? I don't want to go. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. The stranger nodded slowly, as though confirming something. What if you had a choice? Leora almost smiled. What if the moon fell from the sky? His gaze remained steady. What if? For a moment, she allowed herself to imagine it. Freedom. Choice. A future she controlled. Then reality returned. People like me don't get choices. The stranger's jaw tightened. Something flashed in his eyes. Anger. Not at her. At something else. Something far away. Before he could speak again, another voice interrupted. Your Majesty. Leora froze. The words struck like lightning. Your Majesty. The stranger turned. A royal guard approached quickly. Head bowed. Respect radiating from every movement. Leora's heart nearly stopped. No, that couldn't be. The guard continued. The council meeting begins in 10 minutes. Your Majesty. The words echoed again. Leora looked back at the stranger. At the silver eyes. At the calm authority. At the impossible presence surrounding him. Alpha King Kaelin Thorne. The ruler of the entire kingdom. The most powerful wolf alive. She immediately dropped to one knee. Oh gods, Kaelin looked annoyed. Not at her, at the situation. You don't need to kneel. I do. No. She remained frozen. Kaelin sighed. Look at me. Slowly, she obeyed. His expression softened. Just slightly. You've done nothing wrong. The words hit harder than they should have. Because nobody ever said things like that to her. Nobody. Kaelin studied her face. The fading mark from Selena's slap remained visible. His gaze lingered there. A dangerous silence followed. What happened? Leora touched her cheek instinctively. Nothing. Another lie. His eyes said he knew it. But surprisingly, he didn't press further. Instead, he stepped back. The distance felt strangely disappointing. I should go. She nodded. Yes, Your Majesty. For several seconds, neither moved. Then Kaelin spoke. Quietly. Tomorrow will not happen the way you think. Confusion crossed her face. What does that mean? But Kaelin was already walking away. Snow swirled around him. The guard followed. Within moments, both disappeared into the darkness, leaving Leora alone. More confused than before. Tomorrow will not happen the way you think. But the words stayed with her all night, and the next morning brought answers. Terrible answers. Just after sunrise, housekeeper Brenna summoned her. Leora entered the office nervously. Brenna sat behind a desk. A stack of papers rested before her. The older woman looked uncomfortable. That alone was alarming. What is it? Brenna avoided her eyes. Your auction registration. Leora's stomach dropped. What about it? Brenna slid a document forward. There was a sponsor. Leora frowned. A sponsor? Brenna nodded. Someone paid a large sum to ensure your placement. Cold fear crept into her chest. Who? Brenna hesitated. For the first time ever, she looked worried. Garrick Voss. The room spun. Leora knew that name. Everyone did. Alpha Garrick Voss. Wealthy, powerful, ruthless. A man twice her age. A man rumored to collect mates the way others collected jewelry. No. The word escaped before she could stop it. Brenna looked away. He placed an advance claim. No. He intends to win. No. Leora backed away from the desk. Her hands trembled. Her breathing became shallow. This couldn't be happening. It couldn't. But Brenna's expression told the truth. The auction wasn't random. It wasn't chance. Someone wanted her there. Someone powerful. Someone dangerous. And unless a miracle happened, tomorrow night she would belong to Alpha Garrick Voss. But neither woman knew that at that exact moment, in the royal war chamber, Alpha King Kaelin Thorne was placing his crown on a stone table and announcing something that left every council member speechless. I will enter the auction myself. The room erupted. In Chapter 3, the royal council chamber descended into chaos. What did you say? Councillor Dren shot to his feet. Several others followed, faces pale, voices rising. Alpha King Kaelin Thorne remained seated, calm, unmoved. His silver eyes swept across the room. I believe I spoke clearly. You cannot enter a mating auction. You are the king. It has never happened. Kaelin leaned back. Then history will survive one change. The councillors exchanged nervous looks. That wasn't the real issue. Everyone knew it. Councillor Mara folded her arms. You are not seeking a mate. No? Then why are you doing this? Silence. Dangerous silence. Kaelin's gaze shifted toward the enormous map covering the far wall. The kingdom spread across it. Mountains, forests, rivers, pack territories. And beneath all of it hid secrets. Old secrets. I'm 20 years old. His jaw tightened. I have my reasons. Dren slammed a fist onto the table. Those reasons affect the throne. They affect the kingdom. They affect every pack. Kaelin stood. The room instantly fell silent. Power rolled from him naturally. Not because he demanded respect. Because he had earned it. Battle after battle. Year after year. Nobody challenged Kaelin lightly. Not anymore. I wasn't asking permission. The words landed like stones. The argument ended immediately. Councillor Mara sighed. You've already decided? Yes. And nothing will change your mind. No. The councillors looked defeated, except one, a thin man sitting near the corner. Lord Valor, royal historian, keeper of ancient records, the oldest man in the room. His hands trembled slightly. His eyes held something else. Fear. Kaelin noticed. Of course he noticed. The king missed very little. Do you have something to say? Valor hesitated. Too long. Then shook his head. No, your majesty. Kaelin studied him. Interesting. Very interesting. Because Valor looked exactly like a man hiding something. And Kaelin was growing tired of secrets. Especially the ones connected to a missing child. A child stolen 20 years ago. A child everyone believed dead. A child whose trail had suddenly reappeared. In the form of a palace maid named Leora Vale. Meanwhile, Leora spent the entire day trying not to panic. Unfortunately, panic refused to cooperate. Every corridor seemed smaller. Every task felt heavier. Every conversation reminded her of tomorrow, the auction, the claim, Garrick Voss. By afternoon, she could barely focus. You nearly poured soup onto a duke. Cook Marin crossed her arms. Leora blinked. I did? You absolutely did. Oh, Marin sighed. You look terrible. Thank you. That wasn't a compliment. Leora laughed despite herself. A tiny laugh. But real. Marin noticed. Good. At least the girl wasn't completely broken. The older woman lowered her voice. Listen to me. Leora looked up. You're stronger than you think. Emotion flickered across Leora's face. You don't know that. I do. No. Her voice cracked slightly. I'm just a maid. Marin immediately shook her head. No. The answer surprised Leora. The cook stepped closer. You're kind when nobody is watching. Leora blinked. You're brave when nobody notices. A pause. You help people who can't repay you. Leora looked away. Marin continued. Those things matter. Tears threatened. Leora fought them back. Barely. Because nobody had spoken to her that way in a very long time. Maybe ever. Before she could answer, shouting erupted outside. The kitchen staff exchanged looks. What now? One servant rushed inside, breathless, excited. The king is coming. Everyone froze. The king? He never comes here. The servant nodded rapidly. He's inspecting the palace. Instant chaos followed. People straightened uniforms. Tables were cleaned. Pots disappeared. Even Brenna looked nervous. Within minutes, royal guards entered. Then more guards. Then, silence. The kind that arrives before a storm. Alpha King Kaelin Thorne stepped into the kitchen. The room immediately bowed. Every head lowered. Every voice vanished. Leora bowed too, heart pounding. She hadn't expected to see him again, especially not here. Heavy footsteps echoed across stone floors. Closer, closer. Then they stopped, directly in front of her. The room seemed to hold its breath. Leora slowly lifted her eyes. Kaelin was looking at her. Only her. A strange expression crossed his face. Not pity, not curiosity. Something deeper. Something she couldn't understand. The king spoke. Your name is Leora Vale? The entire kitchen stared. Leora swallowed. Yes, your majesty. Kaelin nodded slowly. I see. That was all. Just 3 words. Yet somehow the room felt different afterward. As though something important had happened. Something invisible. Kaelin turned away. His inspection continued. Questions, observations, conversations. But several times, Leora caught him watching her. Each glance left her more confused. Why? Why did the king care? What was she missing? The answer arrived that night, and it came wrapped in blood. The palace slept. Most servants had already gone to bed. Leora couldn't. Too many thoughts, too many fears. She wandered the quiet halls alone, trying to clear her mind, trying not to think about tomorrow. Then she heard something, a sound, soft, metal scraping stone. Leora stopped. The noise came from a corridor rarely used, a section of the palace reserved for royal ceremonies. Curiosity pulled her forward. One step, then another. The hallway darkened, torches flickered, shadows danced across ancient walls. The sound came again, closer now. Leora rounded a corner, and froze. A door stood partially open. Light spilled through the gap. Voices echoed inside. 2 men arguing. She recognized one immediately. King Kaelin. The second voice sounded older, panicked, desperate. Oh, you should have left it buried. The older man spoke first. Kaelin's voice answered. Cold. It was buried over a child. Leora frowned. A child? The older man sounded terrified. You don't understand what you're risking. No. Kaelin stepped closer. The scrape of boots echoed. I understand exactly. Silence followed. Then, a crash. Something shattered. Leora jumped. Inside the room, the argument intensified. The older man suddenly shouted, You were never supposed to find her. Everything stopped. Leora's heart skipped. Find her? Find who? Kaelin's voice lowered dangerously. Say that again. No. The older man sounded horrified, as if he had spoken accidentally, as if a secret had escaped. Leora leaned slightly closer, trying to hear, trying to understand. Then the floor creaked beneath her foot. The sound was tiny, but inside the room, silence fell instantly. Complete silence. Leora's blood turned cold. A second later, the door burst open. She stumbled backward. Kaelin appeared first, eyes blazing, wolf instincts fully awake. The older man followed behind him. Lord Vaylor, the royal historian. His face went white when he saw her. Pure terror, not surprise, not annoyance. Terror, as though seeing a ghost, as though she should not exist. For several long seconds, nobody moved. Then Vaylor whispered something, a broken whisper, barely audible. But Leora heard every word. It's her. Kaelin's gaze snapped toward the old man. What did you say? Vaylor looked directly at Leora, his hands trembling violently, his eyes filling with panic. And then he uttered a sentence that shattered everything. The birthmark. Leora froze. Vaylor staggered backward. The moon-shaped birthmark. Her hand instinctively moved to her shoulder, to the mark she had hidden her entire life. The mark nobody should have known about. The mark only her mother had ever seen. And suddenly, every trace of color vanished from Kaelin Thorne's face. Chapter 4. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. The hallway seemed frozen in time. Leora's hand remained pressed against her shoulder. Her heart hammered painfully. How? How could this man know about the birthmark? She had hidden it her entire life. Even other servants didn't know it existed. Yet Lord Vaylor had recognized it instantly. The old historian looked horrified, as though he had made a terrible mistake. Kaelin's gaze shifted between them. Sharp, calculating, dangerously focused. What birthmark? His voice was calm. Too calm. Vaylor swallowed. Sweat covered his forehead. Kaelin stepped forward. What birthmark? The king didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The pressure in the hallway became suffocating. Leora suddenly felt trapped. She didn't understand any of this, and she desperately wanted to leave. Your Majesty? Kaelin looked at her. His expression softened slightly. Only slightly. Do you have a moon-shaped birthmark? Leora hesitated. Every instinct told her not to answer. Something felt wrong. Not dangerous. Just enormous. Like standing at the edge of a cliff without realizing it. Finally, she nodded. Yes. Vaylor closed his eyes, as though hearing a death sentence. Kaelin noticed. Of course he did. The king missed nothing. Interesting. The word sounded harmless. It wasn't. Vaylor knew it wasn't. His face had gone completely pale. Kaelin looked at Leora. Would you show it to me? Leora immediately shook her head. No. The answer escaped before she could stop it. Shock crossed Vaylor's face. Apparently nobody told kings no. Kaelin simply studied her. Then, unexpectedly, he nodded. Fair. Leora blinked. That wasn't the response she expected. Neither was the faint respect she saw in his eyes. For the first time, she realized something unusual. Kaelin never forced her. Not once. Not when they first met. Not now. Most powerful men took what they wanted. The king kept giving her choices. Small choices, but choices nonetheless. The realization unsettled her, because it made her trust him slightly, and trusting powerful people was dangerous. Very dangerous. Kaelin turned toward Vaylor. We're finished. The old historian stared. Your Majesty, we're finished. The finality in his voice ended the discussion. Vaylor lowered his head, defeated. Within moments, he hurried away, almost running. Leora watched him disappear. What is happening? Kalen didn't answer immediately. His eyes followed the old man. Thoughtful, suspicious. Then he finally looked back at her. I don't know yet. The answer surprised her. It sounded honest. I think you do. A faint smile touched his mouth. Brief. Gone almost instantly. Then perhaps I know less than I thought. Before she could respond, footsteps echoed nearby. Royal guards, approaching quickly. Kalen straightened. The moment changed. The strange intimacy vanished. Duty returned. Responsibility. Distance. The king spoke quietly. You should go to bed. Leora folded her arms. I don't think I'll sleep. Neither will I. For some reason that made her smile. Just a little. Kalen noticed, and for the briefest moment, something softened in his eyes. Something human. Then the guards arrived. The moment ended. As they escorted the king away, he stopped once more and said something that stayed with her all night. Whatever happens tomorrow, stay close to me. Then he disappeared around the corner, leaving Leora more confused than ever. Because tomorrow was the auction, and she had absolutely no intention of being anywhere near the king. The next morning arrived too quickly. Snow covered the kingdom. The sky remained gray. Even the weather felt uneasy. Inside the palace, servants rushed everywhere, preparing for the auction. Decorations, food, guests, security. The event attracted powerful wolves from every territory. By noon, noble families had begun arriving. Expensive carriages lined the palace grounds. Pack banners waved in the wind. Leora wanted to hide. Instead, she was being prepared like merchandise. The realization made her sick. Mina stood beside her inside the servant quarters, trying to help arrange her hair. This is awful. Leora laughed weakly. At least we're agreeing today. Mina stopped, her eyes filled with tears. You can still run. Leora shook her head. They'd find me. Maybe not. They would. Both women knew it. The kingdom wasn't kind to girls without power, especially girls who belonged to nobody. Mina suddenly hugged her, tightly. Leora froze, then hugged her back. For a moment, neither spoke. Finally, Mina whispered, I'm scared. Leora swallowed hard. So am I. The confession felt heavier than expected, because she rarely admitted fear, not even to herself. Hours later, sunset painted the sky red. Guests filled the grand auction arena. Thousands of voices echoed through the massive structure. Leora waited behind a curtain, heart racing, hands trembling. The noise outside sounded endless. Rich families, pack leaders, alphas, nobles, hunters. Everyone had come. The auction master began speaking. His voice thundered through the arena. Ladies and gentlemen. Cheers erupted. The event had started. One by one, women were presented. Some received immediate bids. Others received none. Political deals formed. Alliances shifted. Fortunes changed hands. Leora listened from behind the curtain. Each announcement increased her anxiety. Closer, closer, closer. And then, Leora Vale. The words struck like lightning. Her turn. A servant pulled the curtain aside. It's time. Leora couldn't move. For a moment, her legs refused. Then somehow she forced herself forward, step by step, into the light. The arena exploded with noise. Thousands of eyes turned toward her, judging, measuring, evaluating. Leora felt exposed, small, humiliated. The whispers began immediately. A maid? Seriously? She's beautiful, but no family, no wolf. Worthless. The comments spread through the crowd. Exactly as she feared. The auction master cleared his throat. Opening bid? Silence. Long silence. Heat burned behind Leora's eyes. Nobody bid. Not one person. Laughter appeared in scattered sections. A few nobles openly smirked. The humiliation deepened. The auction master tried again. Opening bid? Nothing. More laughter. Leora lowered her gaze. Of course. Why had she expected anything else? She was a servant, an unwanted girl, a wolfless outcast. The crowd had made its decision. Then a voice broke the silence. 50,000. The arena froze. Gasps erupted everywhere. Leora looked up. A man stood near the front. Tall. Expensive clothing. Cruel smile. Alpha Garrick Voss. Her blood ran cold. Of course. Him. The man who had arranged all of this. The man who wanted ownership, not partnership. The auction master quickly recovered. 50,000? Garrick smiled. Confident. Victorious. Like a man collecting a prize he had already purchased. No one challenged him. No one wanted conflict with Garrick. The auction master raised his hand. Any higher bids? Silence. Garrick's smile widened. Leora felt sick. This was it. And this was how her story ended. Sold. Owned. Trapped. Then another voice echoed across the arena. Deep. Calm. Powerful. 100,000. The entire crowd stopped breathing. Leora's eyes widened. She knew that voice. Everyone knew that voice. Slowly. Thousands of heads turned toward the royal balcony. Toward the figure standing there. Toward Alpha King Kaelin Thorne. Shock spread like wildfire. Garrick's smile vanished. The auction master nearly dropped his hammer. No one spoke. No one moved. Because kings did not participate in auctions. Ever. Kaelin stepped forward, silver eyes fixed on Leora. Only Leora. Garrick recovered first. His expression darkened. 200,000. Whispers exploded across the arena. Kaelin answered instantly. 500,000. The crowd erupted. People stood from their seats, and council members looked horrified. Nobles stared in disbelief. Leora couldn't breathe. What was happening? Why was the king doing this? Garrick's face twisted with anger. 1 million. Gasps echoed everywhere. The auction master looked ready to faint. Then Kaelin did something impossible. Something no one expected. Something that would be talked about for generations. Slowly, he removed the royal crown from his head. The ancient silver crown of the Alpha Kings. The symbol of the throne itself. The arena fell silent. Absolute silence. Kaelin placed it on the balcony railing and spoke 5 words. I offer the crown. The world seemed to stop. Even Garrick looked stunned. The auction master stared in horror. Nobody knew what to say. Nobody knew what to do. Leora simply stood there, frozen, confused, terrified, because the king was risking everything. For her. And she still didn't know why. Then Kaelin's gaze locked onto hers. And for the first time, she saw genuine urgency there. Not political calculation. Not curiosity. Fear. As though something terrible would happen if he lost. And suddenly Leora realized one horrifying truth. The king wasn't bidding because he wanted her. He was bidding because someone else wanted her first. And whatever secret connected her to the crown, people were willing to destroy kingdoms to keep it hidden. Chapter 5. The arena exploded. People shouted over one another. Council members stood in disbelief. Nobles demanded explanations. Pack leaders argued across entire sections. No one could remember anything like this. A king offering his crown. For a maid. For a girl nobody wanted 5 minutes earlier. The auction master looked seconds away from collapsing. Your Majesty... Kaelin never looked away from Leora. I made my offer. The words echoed across the arena. Final. Unshakable. Garrick Voss slowly rose from his seat. Anger radiated from him. Not ordinary anger. The kind born from losing control. The kind that frightened people. But Kaelin remained calm, which somehow felt more dangerous. Garrick laughed once, a cold sound. "You're making a mistake." Kaelin's expression didn't change. "Then it's mine to make." The crowd murmured nervously. Something was wrong. Everyone could feel it. This wasn't about attraction. This wasn't about romance. This wasn't even about politics anymore. It was something else. Something hidden. Something dangerous. The auction master swallowed hard. "Any higher bids?" Silence. Garrick stared at Kaelin. Kaelin stared back. Neither blinked. Neither moved. Finally, Garrick smiled. A strange smile. Almost victorious. "I withdraw." Gasps erupted. Leora blinked. What? Why? He had spent months arranging this. Why surrender now? The answer appeared in Garrick's eyes. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't defeated. He looked pleased, as though things were proceeding exactly as planned. The realization sent a chill through Leora. The auction master raised his hammer. His voice trembled. "Sold." The hammer struck. The sound echoed through the arena. And just like that, everything changed. Leora belonged to the king. The crowd erupted again. Questions, arguments, shock, confusion. But Leora barely heard any of it, because royal guards were already approaching. One bowed. "Please come with us." She nodded numbly. The arena blurred around her. People stared as she passed. The same people who had laughed, mocked, ignored. Now they watched her like a mystery, like a problem nobody understood. And perhaps she was. Minutes later, she entered a private royal corridor. Far from the noise, far from the crowd. Kaelin waited there, alone. For several moments neither spoke. Leora wasn't sure where to begin. Finally, she asked the only question that mattered. "Why?" Kaelin looked tired. Not physically, emotionally, like a man carrying too many secrets. "I can't answer that yet." Frustration flashed across her face. "You spent a crown." "Yes." "You challenged half the kingdom." "Yes." "You bought me." His jaw tightened immediately. "No." The answer came fast, sharp, certain. Leora blinked. Kaelin stepped closer. "I did not buy you." His voice lowered. "The auction ended your claim status." She frowned. "I don't understand." "You are free." The hallway fell silent. Leora stared at him, certain she had heard incorrectly. "What?" "You are free." The words sounded impossible. Kaelin continued. "No ownership. No obligation. No contract. No debt." She couldn't process it. Nobody gave servants freedom. Nobody. Not like this. Not for nothing. "Why?" Kaelin looked away briefly, as though searching for the right answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter. "Because you deserve a choice." The words hit harder than any insult ever had. For years she had been invisible, worthless, replaceable. Yet this powerful man kept insisting she mattered. The feeling was unsettling, dangerous, and strangely comforting. Before she could answer, hurried footsteps approached. A royal guard appeared, breathing hard, panicked. "Your Majesty." Kaelin immediately turned. "What happened?" The guard looked uneasy, very uneasy. "We found Lord Vaylor." Kaelin's eyes narrowed. "And?" The guard swallowed. "He's dead." Silence. Leora's blood ran cold. Kaelin became completely still. "What happened?" "We don't know." The guard's voice shook. "He was found in the archives." A pause. His throat was cut. The corridor suddenly felt much colder. Leora remembered the old historian's face, his fear, His panic, his recognition, the birthmark, the missing child, the secrets. And now he was dead. Kalen's expression darkened. Dangerous energy seemed to fill the hallway. Secure the archives. Already done. Nobody enters. Yes, Your Majesty. The guard hurried away. Silence returned. Heavy silence. Leora looked at Kalen. Because of me? His gaze snapped toward her. No. The answer came instantly. Too instantly. Leora noticed. So did he. A muscle tightened in his jaw. You don't know that. Kalen didn't answer. Because they both knew the truth. Maybe she was connected. Maybe she wasn't. But Valor had recognized her. Hours later, he was dead. That couldn't be ignored. Kalen exhaled slowly. You shouldn't stay alone tonight. Leora laughed nervously. I wasn't planning to. Good. The king looked toward the distant palace towers, thinking, calculating, planning. Then suddenly, a scream echoed through the palace. Sharp, terrified, female. Leora froze. The scream came again, closer this time. Royal guards immediately appeared, weapons drawn. Kalen moved first, running toward the sound. Leora followed before she could stop herself, and they rushed through several corridors, past frightened servants, past confused guards, toward a guest wing. The scream had stopped now, which somehow felt worse. Much worse. Kalen reached a large doorway. Guards stood outside, shaken, pale. The king pushed through. Leora followed, and instantly wished she hadn't. Blood covered the floor. A servant girl lay motionless near the bed. Another crouched in the corner crying. The room smelled like fear. Kalen knelt beside the body. His expression hardened. Leora's stomach turned. The dead girl looked familiar. Very familiar. Then realization struck. It was one of the servants assigned to prepare auction participants. A girl who had worked near Leora all day. The surviving servant pointed toward the wall. Hands trembling. There. Everyone looked. Leora's breath caught. A symbol had been painted in blood. A crescent moon. Exactly the same shape as her birthmark. The room went silent. No one spoke. No one moved. Kalen slowly stood, his eyes locked onto the symbol, then onto Leora. The surviving servant began sobbing. He kept asking about her. Kalen stepped forward. Who? The girl pointed, directly at Leora. He wanted the maid. Leora felt the world tilt. The servant continued crying. He kept saying he had to find her before the king did. Every guard in the room tensed. Kalen's face became unreadable. The girl wiped tears from her eyes, then whispered the final piece. The man who killed her. Her voice cracked. He wasn't wearing a face. The room froze. Leora stared. What? The servant shook violently. I mean it. Tears streamed down her cheeks. His face kept changing. Fear crawled down Leora's spine. Every wolf in the kingdom knew those stories. Ancient stories, forbidden stories, about a rare kind of wolf. A shapeshifter. Not someone who changed into a wolf. Someone who could become other people. Most believed they no longer existed. They were supposed to be legends, myths, nightmares told to children. Kalen looked suddenly alarmed, truly alarmed. More alarmed than when Valor died. More alarmed than during the auction. And that terrified Leora most of all. Because if the Alpha King feared something, everyone else probably should too. Then Kalen whispered a name. A single name. Barely audible. But Leora heard it. The Hollow Wolf. And judging by the fear that entered every guard's eyes, that name was far worse than she could imagine. Chapter 6. The room emptied quickly, and guards escorted the surviving servant away. Others secured the corridor. Orders flew in every direction. Nobody questioned the king, not after hearing that name. The hollow wolf. Leora had never heard it before tonight, yet everyone else reacted instantly. Which meant one thing. The stories were real, and whatever this creature was, it frightened warriors. It frightened guards. It frightened the Alpha King himself. That thought lingered as Kalen stared at the blood-painted crescent moon. His expression was unreadable. Leora finally broke the silence. "What is the hollow wolf?" Kalen didn't answer immediately. That worried her. After a long moment, he looked toward the guards. "Leave us." The guards hesitated. "Your Majesty, leave." They obeyed instantly. Soon the room stood empty. Only Kalen and Leora remained. The king looked exhausted. For the first time since meeting him, he seemed less like a ruler, more like a man carrying an old wound. "The hollow wolf isn't a wolf." Leora frowned. "What does that mean?" Kalen folded his arms. 20 years ago, a secret group existed. His voice remained calm, controlled. They specialized in stealing identities. Spies? Worse. Leora waited. Kalen continued. They infiltrated packs. They replaced trusted people. They started wars. They erased bloodlines. Cold fear crept into her chest. How? Their leader could imitate anyone. Leora remembered the servant's words. His face kept changing. Her stomach tightened. "That's impossible." "I used to think so." The answer sounded disturbingly honest. Kalen walked toward the window. Snow drifted beyond the glass. "The hollow wolf disappeared 20 years ago." A pause. "We believed he died. But now?" Kalen looked back at her. His silver eyes seemed darker somehow. "Now, I'm not sure." Silence settled between them. Heavy silence. Leora tried to process everything. The murders, the birthmark, the auction, the missing child. None of it made sense. Not yet. Then another thought struck her. A frightening one. "Why would he want me?" Kalen's jaw tightened. Again. Always when she asked the important questions. Finally, she stepped closer. "Tell me the truth." His eyes met hers. For a moment, neither looked away. Something shifted. A fragile thread of trust. Not complete. Not yet. But growing. Slowly. Carefully. Kalen exhaled. "I think you're connected to something that happened 20 years ago." Leora stared. "What happened?" The king's gaze drifted toward the crescent moon painted on the wall. Then back to her. A royal child disappeared. The room became perfectly still. Leora's heartbeat thundered in her ears. "A child?" Kalen nodded. "The daughter of the previous king." She frowned. "I don't understand." "The princess vanished." His voice lowered. "One night she was there. The next morning she was gone." Leora listened carefully. Something about this story felt important. Dangerously important. The kingdom searched for years. No body. No ransom. No answers. A strange sensation spread through her chest. Unease. Recognition. Fear. She couldn't explain it. Kalen continued. "Most believed she died. But not you." His eyes sharpened. "No." The answer came without hesitation. Leora noticed. You think she survived?" "Yes." "Why?" Kalen stared at her. For one endless second. 2. 3. Then he said quietly, "Because of the birthmark." The room tilted. Leora froze. No, that wasn't possible." "The princess had one?" Kalen nodded. "A crescent moon." Her breath caught. Suddenly memories surfaced. Tiny fragments. Her mother brushing her hair. Her mother warning her, never show anyone the mark. Never, no matter what. Leora had always assumed it was superstition. Now she wasn't so sure. "My mother knew about it." Kalen immediately focused on her. What exactly did she say? Leora tried to remember. The memory felt distant. old, faded, but one sentence remained crystal clear. "Hide it." Kaelin waited. "That's all?" Leora shook her head slowly. "No." His eyes narrowed. "What else?" The memory returned. Clearer this time. Her mother's frightened face, her trembling voice. Leora swallowed. "She said..." The words caught in her throat. "She said there were people who would kill me if they saw it." Silence. Absolute silence. Kaelin looked away, as though confirming something he already feared. Leora felt panic rising. "Who am I?" The question escaped before she could stop it. Raw. Honest. Painful. Because suddenly she wasn't sure. Her entire life felt unstable, like a floor beginning to crack beneath her feet. Kaelin opened his mouth, then stopped. Something interrupted him. A knock. 3 sharp knocks. The king immediately became alert. "Enter." The door opened. A royal captain stepped inside. Concern covered his face. "Your Majesty." "What is it?" "We searched Lord Valor's private chambers." Kaelin straightened. And?" The captain held up a small leather journal. "We found this hidden beneath the floorboards." Kaelin took it immediately. The captain continued. "Most pages were destroyed. Burned. But a few survived." Leora watched carefully. Something was wrong. The captain looked nervous. Very nervous. "What did they say?" The captain hesitated, then answered. "The surviving pages mention a child." Kaelin opened the journal. His eyes scanned the faded writing. Suddenly he became still. Very still. Leora had seen that reaction before. People only reacted like that when they discovered something terrible. "What is it?" Kaelin didn't answer. His eyes remained locked on the page. The captain swallowed hard. "Your Majesty?" Slowly, Kaelin looked up. All color had vanished from his face. Leora's stomach dropped. What does it say?" The king finally spoke. Quietly. Almost too quietly to hear. "It says the princess was never kidnapped." The room froze. Leora stared. "What?" Kaelin looked back down at the journal. Disbelief filled his voice. "It says she was sold." Silence. No one moved. No one breathed. Sold? A princess? That made no sense. The captain looked equally stunned. Kaelin turned another page. His eyes widened, then narrowed, then widened again, as if every line revealed a new nightmare. Leora stepped closer. "What else?" The king's grip tightened around the journal. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded colder than she had ever heard. "The order came from inside the palace." Leora felt sick. No, that couldn't be true. "The royal family?" Kaelin nodded once. Slowly. Reluctantly. "As far as these records show..." He looked directly into her eyes. "Someone on the throne wanted the princess gone." The words hit like a hammer. But the worst part came next. Because tucked between the surviving pages was a folded piece of paper. Old. Yellowed. Hidden for 20 years. Kaelin unfolded it carefully. His expression changed immediately. Shock, then anger, then something very close to grief. Leora's pulse raced. "What is it?" For several seconds he couldn't answer. Then he handed her the paper. With trembling fingers, she looked down and saw a portrait. A charcoal drawing of a little girl. Perhaps 3 years old. Curly dark hair, large gray eyes, a crescent moon birthmark on her shoulder. The portrait looked exactly like childhood sketches her mother used to keep hidden. But that wasn't what stole her breath. And at the bottom of the page, someone had written 5 words. "If found, kill her immediately." And beneath the warning was a royal seal. The seal of the king. Chapter 7. The paper slipped from Leora's fingers. It fluttered to the floor. Neither of them moved to pick it up. The royal seal stared up at them. Ancient, official, undeniable. Leora felt numb. A few minutes ago, her life had been confusing. Now it felt impossible. If found, kill her immediately. The words echoed inside her mind. Again, and again, and again. Kaelin looked just as shaken. The captain standing nearby crossed himself instinctively, as though warding off evil. No, Leora whispered. The room turned toward her. No. Her voice cracked. My mother loved me. Kaelin's eyes softened. Leora shook her head. Rapidly. Desperately. She wouldn't hide me if she wanted me dead. No. Kaelin answered immediately. She wouldn't. The certainty in his voice surprised her. He wasn't questioning her. He believed her. For some reason, that mattered. The king picked up the portrait. Carefully, as if it were fragile. Or precious. We don't know who used the seal. The captain frowned. Your Majesty? Kaelin looked toward him. Royal seals can be stolen. They can be copied. They can be forged. Hope flickered inside Leora. Tiny. Fragile. But real. Kaelin continued. 20 years have passed. The truth may not be what it appears. The captain nodded slowly, yet uncertainty remained. Because one fact couldn't be ignored. Someone powerful had wanted a child dead. And that child might be Leora. A knock interrupted the silence. Then another. Urgent. The captain opened the door. A guard rushed inside, breathing hard, face pale. Your Majesty. Kaelin immediately recognized the expression. Bad news. What happened? The guard swallowed. Alpha Garrick Voss has left the palace. So? The guard hesitated. He took 50 armed wolves. The room went still. Kaelin's face darkened. Where? We don't know. Leora's stomach tightened. The guard continued. But witnesses overheard something. What? The guard looked toward Leora. Fear flashed across his face. Then he answered. They heard Garrick say he would retrieve the girl himself. Silence. Dead silence. Kaelin turned toward the window. Thinking. Calculating. Planning. Leora already knew the answer. Garrick wasn't giving up. The auction had never been his real goal. Whatever secret surrounded her, he wanted it. And now he was moving. Fast. The king suddenly looked at the captain. Prepare horses. The captain blinked. Tonight? Now. The captain nodded instantly, then hurried away. Leora frowned. What are you doing? Kaelin met her gaze. His answer came without hesitation. Getting you out of the palace. An hour later, they rode through a snowstorm. The palace had disappeared behind them. Only darkness remained. Darkness and endless white forests. Leora sat atop a large black horse, wrapped in a heavy cloak borrowed from the royal stores. Beside her rode Kaelin, silent, watchful, alert. His eyes constantly scanned the trees. The journey felt unreal. 24 hours ago she had been scrubbing floors. Now she was fleeing the kingdom with its king. Nothing made sense anymore. Snow crunched beneath hooves. Cold wind cut across the road. Finally Leora broke the silence. Where are we going? Kaelin looked ahead. Somewhere safe. She laughed softly. I don't think safe exists anymore. A faint smile touched his face. Brief, gone quickly. But she saw it. And strangely, it made her feel better. The forest grew denser. Trees crowded closer. Shadows stretched across the path. For a while, neither spoke. Then Kaelin suddenly asked, What was your mother like? The question surprised her. She thought for a moment. Kind. His expression remained attentive. Stubborn. Another tiny smile. Very stubborn. Kaelin nodded. I can see that. Leora rolled her eyes. I'll pretend that's a compliment. It was. The conversation faded, yet something had changed. The distance between them felt smaller now. Not gone, just smaller. Trust. A little more of it. Slowly growing. And despite everything. Hours later, they stopped beside a frozen stream. The horses needed rest. So did they. Kalen built a fire. Leora watched. You know how to do that? He glanced up. Build a fire? You're a king. Kalen laughed quietly. The sound surprised her. Warm. Genuine. Human. My father believed princes should suffer regularly. Leora smiled. I think I would have liked him. The smile faded from Kalen's face. A shadow crossed his expression. Pain. Old pain. Leora immediately regretted the comment. I'm sorry. No. His voice softened. You don't need to apologize. Silence followed. The fire crackled. Snow drifted through the trees. For the first time in days, everything felt calm, almost peaceful. Then Kalen spoke. My father would have liked you. Leora looked up. Their eyes met. Something shifted again. A deeper understanding. A connection neither expected, neither planned, neither fully understood. And for one dangerous moment, Leora forgot he was a king. She saw only the man, the lonely man, the burdened man, the man who kept choosing her safety over his own comfort. Then a howl shattered the night. Every muscle in Kalen's body tensed. The sound came again. Closer. Not a wolf. Something else. Something wrong. Leora felt it immediately. Instinct. Fear. The king stood, one hand moving toward his sword. Stay behind me. The words came sharp, protective. Leora's pulse raced. Another howl echoed through the forest. Then another, and another. Too many. Kalen's eyes narrowed. They found us. Leora's blood ran cold. Who? Before he could answer, movement appeared among the trees. Dark figures, surrounding them, watching, waiting. One stepped into the firelight. A man. Tall, wrapped in black furs, his face hidden beneath a hood. Then another appeared, and another, at least 20. The circle tightened. Kalen drew his sword. Silver steel flashed. The strangers stopped. The leader laughed, a strange laugh, almost cheerful. Your Majesty. Kalen's expression hardened. You shouldn't be here. The hooded man tilted his head. Neither should she. Leora felt sick. The stranger slowly lowered his hood. She expected scars, or fangs, or some monstrous face. Instead, she saw an ordinary man, handsome even. Yet something felt deeply wrong. His smile, his eyes, his presence, like wearing someone else's skin. Kalen stepped forward, shielding her. The stranger's smile widened, still protecting her. Leave. The man ignored him. His gaze settled on Leora. He's studying her, evaluating her, almost fondly. Then he said something that made her heart stop. You look exactly like your mother. The world froze. Leora stared. The stranger laughed softly. And then, his face changed. Not completely, not instantly, but enough. His jaw shifted. His eyes darkened. His features melted into someone else's. The transformation lasted only seconds. Yet it was enough. Enough to prove the impossible. Enough to confirm every nightmare. The hollow wolf stood before them, and the smile on his stolen face suggested he knew far more about Leora's past than anyone else alive. Then he spoke 5 words. 5 words that shattered everything Kalen believed. Your mother sold you herself. Chapter 8. No. The word escaped Leora instantly, before she could think, before she could breathe, before she could process what she had heard. No. The hollow wolf smiled, almost gently, as though he had expected the reaction. Kalen stepped forward, sword raised. Enough. The stranger ignored him. His eyes remained fixed on Leora. She deserves the truth. You don't know the truth. Kalen's voice was ice. The hollow wolf laughed. Oh, I know far more than you. The forest grew silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. Leora stared at the stranger. Part of her wanted to run. Part of her wanted to attack him. But a small, terrified part wanted answers. And that frightened her most. The hollow wolf noticed. Of course he did. Predators always noticed weakness. Your mother wasn't what you think. Leora's hands clenched. Stop. She made a choice. Stop. She chose survival. Stop. The shout echoed through the trees. Silence followed. The hollow wolf's smile faded slightly. For the first time, sadness flickered across his face. Real sadness. Unexpected sadness. Then it disappeared. Believe what you want. Kaelin moved closer to Leora. Protective, steady, present. The king never took his eyes off the enemy. He's trying to divide us. The hollow wolf laughed again. Us? His gaze moved between them. Interesting, amused. You trust each other already. Neither answered, which was answer enough. The hollow wolf's smile widened. That's unfortunate. Kaelin's grip tightened around his sword. What do you want? The stranger tilted his head. A conversation. You brought 20 wolves. I expected resistance. Kaelin looked unimpressed. The hollow wolf sighed dramatically. I always hated royal negotiations. Without warning, he snapped his fingers. And the surrounding wolves moved. Fast. Too fast. The attack began instantly. Steel flashed. Growls erupted. The forest exploded into chaos. Kaelin reacted first. His sword cut through the nearest attacker. The man dropped immediately. Another rushed forward. Then another. Then 3 more. Leora stumbled backward. Heart pounding. Everything happened too quickly. The hollow wolf never moved. He simply watched, observing, waiting. As if the battle wasn't the real objective. Kaelin fought like a storm. Precise. Relentless. Terrifying. Several attackers fell within seconds, yet more kept coming. Too many. Leora spotted movement behind him. A wolf charging from the shadows. Kaelin! The warning came just in time. He turned. Blocked. Countered. The attacker crashed into the snow. But the distraction cost him. A blade slashed across his shoulder. On blood stained the white ground. Leora felt panic surge. Kaelin! I'm fine. He wasn't. Not completely. The hollow wolf watched carefully. Still smiling. Still waiting. Then his gaze shifted toward Leora. And suddenly, she understood. The battle was never about killing Kaelin. It was about separating them. The realization came too late. A hand grabbed her from behind. Leora gasped. She struggled instantly. Another arm locked around her waist. A cloth covered her mouth. The world spun. No! Kaelin's roar shook the forest. Several attackers flew backward as his wolf power erupted. For the first time, Leora felt the true strength of an alpha king. The air itself seemed to tremble. Snow exploded upward. Trees bent. Even the attackers looked frightened. But it wasn't enough. Not this time. The cloth carried something strange. A scent. Sweet. Heavy. Her vision blurred. Kaelin fought toward her. Desperately. Furiously. Their eyes met. Just for a second. One terrible second. Leora saw something she had never seen before. Fear. Not for himself. For her. Then darkness swallowed everything. When she woke, everything hurt. Her head, her throat, her chest. The room around her was unfamiliar. Stone walls, iron bars, a single lantern, cold air, a prison. Leora sat up too quickly. Dizziness struck immediately. Memories rushed back. The forest. The battle. Kaelin. Panic surged through her. She scrambled toward the bars. Hello? No answer. Hello? Footsteps echoed somewhere beyond the cell. Slow, deliberate. A figure emerged from the darkness. The hollow wolf. This time wearing a different face. An older face. Gray hair. Gentle eyes. A stranger's identity. Leora hated him instantly. You kidnapped me. He looked almost offended. Technically. Don't. Fine. He sighed. Yes. Leora gripped the bars. Where is Kaelin? The hollow wolf studied her carefully. Alive. Relief hit so hard her knees weakened. Alive. Thank the gods. Alive. The hollow wolf noticed her reaction and smiled. Interesting. Very interesting. Leora immediately looked away, refusing to give him more information. The stranger paced slowly. You care about him? She remained silent. You trust him. Silence again. The hollow wolf stopped walking. That's dangerous. Finally she looked at him. Anger burned inside her. You murdered people. His expression darkened. For the first time, genuine emotion appeared. Pain, regret, something ugly. I've done worse. The honesty shocked her. Most monsters pretended innocence. He didn't. The hollow wolf sat across from the cell, studying the floor. For several moments he said nothing. Then, unexpectedly, he asked a question. Did your mother ever sing to you? Leora froze. The question came from nowhere. What? A song. His voice softened. Before bed. Confusion spread through her. Because yes, she remembered a song. A strange song. One her mother sang constantly. Especially when she was frightened. The memory surfaced slowly. Warm hands. Soft voice. A melody she hadn't heard in years. The hollow wolf watched her expression and immediately knew. She did. Leora's heart raced. How do you know that? The stranger looked away, toward the wall, toward something only he could see. Then he whispered, because I taught it to her. The room went silent. Leora stared. No, that wasn't possible. And the hollow wolf noticed her disbelief. Your mother wasn't born a servant. His voice remained quiet. She was born inside the palace. The world tilted. Leora shook her head. No. Yes. No. The stranger smiled sadly. You're very much like her. Leora stepped back from the bars. Every answer created 10 more questions. Nothing made sense. Nothing. The hollow wolf stood, slowly, carefully, then reached into his coat. Leora tensed instantly. Instead of a weapon, he removed an old necklace. Silver. Worn. Familiar. Too familiar. The breath left her lungs. She knew that necklace. She'd seen it hundreds of times. Her mother wore it every day. Every single day. The hollow wolf held it up. The lantern light caught the silver. Leora's hands trembled. Where did you get that? The stranger looked directly into her eyes. And for the first time, the mask slipped. Not the physical mask, the emotional one. Grief flooded his face, raw, deep, ancient. Then he answered, because it belonged to my daughter. The world stopped. Leora stared, unable to breathe, unable to think, unable to move. The hollow wolf closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them again, they shimmered with pain. And the next words shattered her completely. Your mother was my child. The lantern flickered. The prison cell seemed to spin. Because if what he was saying was true, then the monster she feared was her grandfather. Chapter 9. Leora couldn't speak. The words echoed through her mind. Your mother was my child. Impossible. Absurd. Terrifying. She stared at the hollow wolf through the bars, at the man who had murdered, kidnapped, lied, manipulated, and now claimed to be family. No. Her voice shook. You expect me to believe that? The hollow wolf didn't answer immediately. He simply held the necklace, waiting, patient, as though he understood exactly how impossible this sounded. Finally, he spoke. You don't have to believe me. Good. But it's true. Leora looked away. Anger surged through her. Not because she believed him, because a small part of her wondered if she should, and she hated that. The hollow wolf returned the necklace to his coat. Your mother was named Alara. Leora froze. Only a few people knew that name. Most servants had called her Ella, not Alara, never Alara. The hollow wolf noticed her reaction. She loved strawberry tea. Leora's stomach tightened. She hated thunderstorms. A pause. She laughed when she was nervous. Tears burned behind Leora's eyes, because every word was true. Every single one. The stranger lowered his gaze. She got that from me. Silence filled the cell. Heavy. Painful. Leora didn't know what to think anymore. Then another question surfaced, one she could no longer ignore. If you're my grandfather, her voice sounded hollow, why did you let all of this happen? The hollow wolf became very still. For several seconds he said nothing. Then he laughed. A bitter laugh. A broken laugh. The kind people make when there are no good answers. Because I failed. The honesty surprised her. Again. He turned toward the lantern, staring into the flame. I spent 20 years searching. His voice softened. 20 years trying to find you. Leora folded her arms. That's not an answer. No. His eyes closed briefly. It isn't. When he opened them again, they looked older somehow. More tired, more human. And that frightened her more than his cruelty ever had. Monsters were easy to hate. Broken people were harder. The hollow wolf walked toward the cell. Slowly. Carefully. Then he said something unexpected. The king is coming. Leora blinked. What? The stranger smiled faintly. He never stops. Confusion crossed her face. The hollow wolf laughed quietly. That's what makes him dangerous. Something about the way he said it felt almost respectful. Almost. Leora frowned. If you're afraid of him, why take me? The smile disappeared. Instantly. Because he doesn't know the final truth. Cold fear crept into her chest. What truth? The hollow wolf's gaze sharpened. For the first time since arriving, real urgency entered his voice. The princess was never the target. The room went silent. Leora stared. What? The princess wasn't supposed to disappear. Nothing made sense. Again. The stranger stepped closer. Someone wanted another child. Leora felt her pulse quicken. What child? The hollow wolf looked directly into her eyes and answered. You. The words landed like a hammer. No. Yes. No. His expression remained grim. The princess was a distraction. The lantern crackled softly. Outside, wind howled against stone walls. Inside, Leora's world continued breaking apart. The hollow wolf spoke carefully, as though choosing each word. Someone learned a prophecy. Leora almost laughed. A prophecy? Now he sounded insane. The stranger noticed. I don't believe in prophecies either. That caught her attention. Then why mention it? Because powerful people do. A pause. Especially frightened ones. The room fell silent again. The hollow wolf continued. According to the old records, a child would be born carrying the moon mark. Leora instinctively touched her shoulder. The birthmark. The cursed birthmark. The hidden birthmark. The child would unite the packs. His voice darkened. And expose the throne's greatest crime. Leora's stomach dropped. No. 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 The hollow wolf nodded slowly. As soon as the prophecy surfaced, people began searching. Searching for what? You. The answer came instantly. The lantern seemed dimmer now. The air heavier. Every answer led somewhere darker. Somewhere worse. Then a distant sound echoed through the fortress. A horn. Long. Powerful. The hollow wolf immediately looked toward the ceiling, listening. Another horn followed, closer, then another, and another. The stranger smiled. A genuine smile this time. He found us! Leora's heart leapt. Kaelin. The hollow wolf moved toward the door. Not panicked, not afraid. Prepared. As though he had expected this all along. Leora rushed to the bars. What happens now? The stranger paused, his hand resting on the door. Then he looked back at her. For the first time, she saw certainty in his eyes. Absolute certainty. The truth. The door opened, then closed behind him, leaving Leora alone. Moments later, chaos erupted outside. Shouts, running footsteps, steel clashing. The fortress shook. Battle had begun. Leora gripped the bars tightly. Every second felt like an hour. The fighting grew louder, closer. Then, an explosion. Stone cracked somewhere nearby. Dust rained from the ceiling. A scream echoed through the corridor. Then another. The battle was moving through the fortress. Fast, very fast. Leora's pulse thundered. Kaelin was here. She knew it. She could feel it. A minute later, footsteps approached. Heavy, rapid, determined. Her breath caught. The corridor door burst open. A figure appeared. Sword drawn, silver eyes blazing. Kaelin. Relief crashed through her so hard she nearly collapsed. He crossed the corridor immediately. Leora. His voice carried more emotion than she had ever heard before. She smiled despite everything. You look terrible. Kaelin actually laughed. A short, exhausted laugh. Then he reached the cell. His hand closed around the bars. For one brief second, neither spoke. Neither moved. They simply looked at each other, making sure the other was real. Alive. Safe. Finally, Kaelin exhaled. I thought I lost you. The confession stunned them both. Silence followed. A deep emotional silence. Because neither knew what to do with those words. Then the moment shattered. A voice echoed from behind. Touching. Kaelin spun instantly. The hollow wolf stood at the end of the corridor, waiting, watching. No guards, no soldiers, just him, alone. The king's expression hardened. Release her. The stranger smiled. In a moment. Kaelin took a step forward, sword ready, danger radiating from every movement. The hollow wolf remained calm, almost peaceful, which felt wrong, very wrong. Then he reached inside his coat and removed a folded document. Old, yellowed, ancient. The original confession. Kaelin froze. The hollow wolf held it up. The one they tried to destroy. The king's eyes widened. For the first time, genuine shock crossed his face. What confession? Leora asked. The hollow wolf looked toward her, then toward Kaelin, then slowly unfolded the paper. His voice echoed through the corridor. The confession of King Aldrich Thorn. Kaelin's blood seemed to turn to ice, because Aldrich Thorn wasn't just any king. He was Kaelin's grandfather, the ruler who sat on the throne 20 years ago, the ruler whose seal appeared on the execution order. The hollow wolf's expression became grim. He admitted everything. Silence. Absolute silence. Then he spoke the words that changed everything. The princess was never stolen. Leora's heart pounded. The hollow wolf continued. King Aldrich sold his own daughter. Kaelin stared. Disbelief. Horror. Grief. The emotions flashed across his face one after another. But the stranger wasn't finished. Not even close. Because the next sentence was far worse. The princess wasn't Leora. The world stopped. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Leora stared. Kaelin stared. The hollow wolf lowered the document and quietly revealed the final truth. The missing princess was Kaelin's mother. Chapter 10. Nobody spoke. The corridor seemed frozen. The missing princess was Kaylin's mother. The words echoed endlessly. Leora stared at the hollow wolf. Then at Kaylin. Then back again. Nothing made sense. Nothing. Kaylin looked as though the ground had vanished beneath him. For the first time since she met him, he seemed completely unprepared. Not angry, not commanding, not invincible. Just stunned. The hollow wolf lowered the document. His voice softened. The kingdom believed a princess vanished. A pause. The truth was far uglier. Kaylin's grip tightened around his sword. So tell it. The words came sharp. Pain hidden beneath them. The hollow wolf nodded. Slowly. Then began. Your grandfather feared losing power. His eyes moved toward Kaylin. The royal line was weakening. The packs were becoming divided. The throne was losing support. The corridor remained silent. Only distant battle sounds echoed through the fortress. Then a prophecy appeared. Leora felt cold. The prophecy again. The hollow wolf continued. It predicted a child born with the moon mark. His gaze shifted toward Leora. A child who would expose corruption and unite the packs. Kaylin frowned. And? The stranger sighed. And your grandfather panicked. A long pause. He believed the prophecy referred to his daughter. The missing princess. Kaylin's mother. The realization hit hard. The hollow wolf nodded. He sold her. Silence. To people beyond the northern sea. Leora's stomach twisted. No child deserved that. No child. Not even a princess. Especially not a princess. The hollow wolf looked away, as though reliving old memories. Years later, she escaped. Kaylin's breathing stopped. The stranger noticed. She returned in secret. Hope flickered inside the king's eyes. Tiny, fragile, but visible. She fell in love. The hollow wolf smiled sadly. She had a daughter. The corridor became perfectly still. Leora felt her heartbeat quicken. A daughter. The hollow wolf slowly turned toward her and smiled. Not the smile of a manipulator, not the smile of a killer, the smile of an old man remembering family. You. The world stopped. Leora stared. No. His eyes filled with tears. Yes. No. The word came out broken, weak, terrified, because part of her already knew. Part of her had known since the birthmark, since the warnings, since the hidden portrait. And the hollow wolf nodded. Your mother wasn't a servant. Tears rolled down his cheeks. She was the missing princess. Leora's knees nearly gave out. Everything crashed together. The birthmark, the secrets, the warnings, the hunters, the auction, the murders, all of it. Her mother had hidden her, protected her, not because she was ashamed, because she loved her. The realization hit like sunlight after endless winter. And suddenly, Leora understood. Her mother had never abandoned her. Never. The hollow wolf continued quietly. When your mother learned people were searching for you, his voice cracked. She disappeared. Leora closed her eyes. Pain surged through her chest. Because now she understood something else. The sacrifice. The choice. The reason. Her mother had given up everything. For her. Kaylin stepped forward. Slowly. His eyes remained locked on the document. What happened to her? The hollow wolf looked away. Silence answered first. Then words. The hardest words of all. She died protecting her daughter. The corridor fell silent. Leora's tears finally escaped. Not because she had learned her mother was dead. She already knew that. But now she knew why. And somehow that hurt more. Kaylin moved beside her. Close. Not touching. Just there. Present. Steady. the same way he always had been. The hollow wolf folded the confession carefully, then handed it to Kaelin. The king accepted it. Without a word, the stranger smiled faintly. Now you know. Kaelin looked up. And you? The hollow wolf laughed softly. A tired laugh. I've spent 20 years chasing ghosts. A pause. That's enough. For the first time, he looked old. Very old. The fight seemed gone from him. The anger, the obsession, the grief, all of it. He simply looked tired. Then footsteps echoed through the corridor. Royal soldiers, dozens of them, approaching quickly. The hollow wolf heard them. So did Kaelin. Their eyes met. Two men connected by decades of tragedy. Neither spoke. Neither needed to. Finally, the hollow wolf smiled. A genuine smile. I think she'll be safe with you. Leora frowned. What does that mean? But the old man was already backing away, toward a side passage, toward the darkness. Kaelin took a step forward. Wait. The hollow wolf stopped, only briefly. Then he looked at Leora one last time. The expression on his face shattered her heart. Love, regret, pride, loss, all mixed together. Your mother would be proud of you. Then he disappeared into the shadows. Gone. Just like that. And somehow Leora knew she would never see him again. 3 months later. Spring sunlight covered the capital. Flowers bloomed where snow once stood. The kingdom had changed. More than anyone thought possible. The confession became public. Corrupt nobles were removed. Ancient crimes were exposed. Hidden alliances collapsed. The Pax finally learned the truth. And when they did, everything changed. The people who once mocked Leora now stood in long lines outside the palace, hoping for forgiveness, hoping for a chance, because the unwanted maid was no longer unwanted. She never had been. She was Princess Leora Thorne, granddaughter of a king, daughter of a princess, heir to a legacy buried for decades. Yet none of those titles mattered much to her, not compared to what happened next. Leora stood in the palace gardens, watching the sunset. A familiar voice spoke behind her. You escaped another council meeting. She smiled immediately. I learned from the best. Kaelin laughed. Fair. He joined her beside the fountain. Comfortable silence settled between them. The kind that only existed between people who truly trusted each other. A lot had changed. But some things hadn't. Kaelin still protected everyone. Leora still helped anyone she could. The difference was that now they did it together. The king looked toward the horizon. You know, Leora glanced at him. What? I never wanted a crown. She smiled. That's unfortunate. His eyes met hers, warm, honest, human. The walls he once carried were gone now. Not completely, but enough. Enough to let someone in. Enough to love. Slowly. Gently. Without fear. Kaelin reached for her hand. For a moment she simply looked at it, then placed hers in his. The gesture felt small, yet somehow it meant everything. No auction, no obligation, no destiny. Just choice. The thing he had given her from the beginning. The thing nobody else ever had. Choice. Kaelin smiled softly. I have a question. Leora raised an eyebrow. Should I be worried? Probably. She laughed. The sound echoed through the garden. Warm. Free. Happy. For the first time in years, maybe for the first time ever. The king squeezed her hand gently, then asked, Would you like to build the future with me? Tears filled her eyes. Not sad tears. Not painful tears. The kind people waited a lifetime to cry. Leora smiled and answered, Yes. The sun dipped below the horizon. The kingdom moved forward. The wounds of the past are slowly healing. And somewhere beyond the northern mountains, a tired old wolf finally stopped running from his ghosts. While in the capital, the maid nobody wanted found the family she never knew she had. The future she never thought possible. And the man who chose her not because of a crown, but because he saw her worth long before anyone else did. The end.